Chapter 5. Al had been right about Westwater. It knocked our socks off. We were still talking about it as we approached the San Juan River. Al was driving slowly because we were pulling the heavy trailer with gear for a 10-day float. We were suffering from whitewater withdrawal. Skull was awesome, Adam was saying. I'll never forget it, especially the look on everybody's face when we dropped into the hole. I was too busy paddling to notice, Rita shouted. Maybe if Redhead here was paddling instead of messing around, we wouldn't have gone into the hole. Al missed it by a mile with his raft. Your mother, Adam teased. Rita reached out and grabbed Adam's t-shirt by the neck and pulled him toward her. Wears ordinary women's shoes, and if you say anything different, Al was rowing, not paddling. Troy said, you have more control with those oars than with a bunch of paddles. The part I liked best, Adam said merrily, was the Room of Doom. We almost got sucked in there the first day. Around and around you go, you can't get out. That would have been interesting, floating around all day with that dead cow. Pug was chortling. The part I liked best was when Heather went flying like she was shot out of a gun, and the look on her face when she was suddenly out in the river. Riding shotgun in the van, Heather rolled her head and groaned. It wasn't a pleasant memory, I'm sure. When we dropped into that hole in Skull Rapid in Westwater Canyon, the boat folded like a sandwich made from one slice of bread. Everybody crashed into each other, and when the boat sprang back to its normal length, it catapulted her out, just the way Pug said, as if she'd been shot from a cannon. But that wasn't the worst part. She was caught in the hole, and the white water recirculated her over and over before spitting her out. It must have felt like she was in a cross between a washing machine and a garbage disposal. Once Heather was rescued, she lost it. She got really hysterical. It wasn't pretty to watch. Star and I helped settle her down. After that, the fear never left her eyes. That happened on our first day on Westwater, and then she wouldn't get back on the water for our second and third runs, no matter how much Al counseled her about getting back on the horse. She stayed by the van and waited for us. After our last run through Westwater Canyon, we spent a couple of hours loading the boats with all the overnight gear we'd need for 3 more days of flat floating downstream all the way to Moab, Utah. Heather got back on the board after Al promised it would all be flat. It was. Pretty in stretches with red cliffs along the river and snow-covered mountains in the background, but it wasn't whitewater. The van rumbled from Colorado into Utah, and we passed through the little towns of Monticello and Blanding. We were nearing the San Juan. It had taken days of work and preparation back in base camp, shopping from Al's shopping list, packing waterproof metal rocket boxes with a 10-day supply of food, stuffing all our personal gear into huge waterproof bags, and we were exhausted. We'd chattered for hours about Westwater and whatever else came up, but the long drive had finally worn us out, and most people had nodded off. Troy's head was on my shoulder, and I wasn't very comfortable, but I was happy. Only Freddie and I were awake. Freddie, as ever, was studying the countryside like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I looked around at the barren high desert of southeast Utah. I'd never been out this way with my dad. It didn't look very interesting to me until we drove into Bluff, a tiny town with old buildings made out of blocks of red stone. The huge cottonwoods that lined the road wore their fall colors, and it was warm. We stopped at a gas station and convenience store. It would be our last stop. The put-in for the San Juan River was only 3 miles away. Last chance for junk food, Adam said with a crazed look as he slapped himself into consciousness. Let's go in there and clean them out. Pug took him seriously. 10 days on the river and it's a long time. It's gonna get grim out there, Adam added. People are gonna kill for a little bag of chips. Pug countered out his available funds. Freddie and Star wandered by him, looking around aimlessly. They never had any money. I tried loaning Star some, but there wasn't much she wanted from the material world. Mildly irritated, Al raised his voice. Keep in mind, we have 3 meals a day packed in the rocket boxes on the trailer. Nobody's gonna starve. Tell you what, Troy said suddenly. Pick out whatever you want. Everybody, I can cover it. Pug's mouth fell open. You're kidding. We were all pretty astonished, including Al and the guy at the cash register. Troy shrugged. I'm serious. That's what money's for, isn't it? Anything in the store you want? Then he flashed his golden smile and said, No big deal. It was interesting to see how people reacted. As happy as a kid on Christmas morning, Pug had his arms so full he was dropping stuff. The clerk gave him a bag. Adam accompanied Pug around the store for the fun of it, encouraging him to take this and that. At the magazine rack, they picked out Soldier of Fortune for Pug, and Adam got a couple of ninja magazines for himself. He struck a few martial arts poses and went around the store grunting in mock Japanese. I had to laugh, remembering about his moonlight escapades on the rooftops, the roses on the pillows. Rita was on a shopping jag, too. I was just watching. Come on, Jessie, Troy encouraged me. It's our last chance, 10 days in the wilderness and all that. Are you sure? It's going to be a lot, I nodded toward the big hitters. No problem. My treat. Star, Heather, Freddie. If we're going to have a good time on the river, we're going to need some supplies. I picked out a little junk food, but Star refrained. She was so conscious about what she ate, her body was practically translucent. Not that she was anorexic. Star would eat as long as it was natural food and no red meat. She and I picked out some lotions and lip stuff, and I talked her into a pair of sunglasses with some colorful loops to hold them on. It was a windfall for the fellow at the counter. Troy never flinched either. I'd never met anyone that generous before. Heather thanked him, and he said, For my friends. Freddie was kind of disappearing out the door when Troy said, Freddie, isn't there anything? There was a tone in Troy's voice, like his feelings were about to be hurt. I knew he was intrigued with Freddie. He'd never met anyone like him before. None of us really knew who Freddie was. Freddie glanced back at Troy and he smiled his bright, shy smile. Sure, he said. Thanks. He picked out a Hershey bar and a Coke, and that was it. It was dusk. Al drove us to the edge of town, and we stopped at an old stone garage with a half-inflated raft out front and a huge sign that said, Scenic San Juan River Trips. Al turned around and said, This should only take a few minutes. They're shut down for the season, but they're going to do our shuttle for us. Drive the van and trailer to the end of the line while we're on the river. It wasn't a few minutes. Apparently Al was having trouble with the shuttle arrangements. We were having a good time in the van, munching on junk food and visiting. The talk turned to San Juan. What was it going to be like? Pretty boring was the consensus after our wild adventures on the Colorado and Westwater Canyon. Adam's voice turned lunatic. Give me white water! I say, give me white water! So, we're supposed to do 10 days on a flat river, Troy said, and you know why? Yeah, because Al said that's where he could get a permit, Rita blurted. That's right. That's the only reason, but that's pretty lame if you think about it. Why should hoods in the woods need a permit? Adam laughed. That's about like bank robbers applying for a loan. If Al, who needs the permit, it's not us, we can go anywhere we want. Vegas, Adam said just that fast. Rita was shaking her head. Gotta be L.A. Miami, Pug insisted. I'm serious, Troy said. The keys are in the ignition. Our attention was immediately riveted to those keys and the sudden significance that Troy had given them. The van crackled with energy. With one stroke, Troy had turned our imaginations up to white hot. It was a priceless moment. Rita and Pug were going wild, and Adam was slapping Troy on the back. I checked Freddie out. He was amused. Heather was awfully quiet, with a nervous little smile on her face, but if she'd said anything, Rita would have ripped her face off. Troy looked around the van to each of us and settled us down with the power of his eyes. We can go anywhere we want, I said softly, trying out the idea. I thought how my dad would feel. He'd find out it wasn't going to be as tight as he thought to ship me off to a program where he could picture me in a certain box. He'd have to account for my feelings for a change. Where to? Rita said impatiently. Hey, I could show you guys around New York. Troy was shaking his head. That's what they'd expect us to do. And think about how fast they'd pick us up. We could steal a different car, Pug offered. Okay, everybody. Now think about that trailer we're pulling. It's got 2 boats worth the gear and a 10-day supply of food. I'm thinking if we could get off the roads and get on to a river, not this one, we could slip away and have ourselves a good time. There was plenty of noisy agreement about that. Hang in there, Troy said as we hushed up. The question is, can we launch before they catch us? They'd never guess we're on a river, let alone which one. And it's October. There won't hardly be anyone on the river but us, just like it was at Westward. Right on, Pug thundered. We all knew Troy was about to name the river, but nobody had the slightest idea what it might be. Hurry, Rita said. Al could come out any minute. Easy, Troy assured her. Remember, everybody, remember how Al said Skull was a Grand Canyon class rapid. You remember that? Sure, we answered. Well, we did fine in Skull. Heather took a swim, but big deal, and it was a blast. So why don't we run the Grand Canyon? There followed several moments of total silence, a rare event for the 8 of us. It was an awesome thought, outrageous and inspired. There was a beauty to the idea, grand, wild, and majestic, drawing power and mystery from the canyon itself. You'd have to be awfully nervy to think you could up and run the Grand Canyon as inexperienced as we were. No adults, just us? The calm broke into a babble of excited voices. We could do it, Adam cheered. 10 days of food, Troy added, and all the rafting gears packed on the trailer. Could we really do it? I asked Troy. I mean, would we make it through? Like Adam said, we were awesome in Westwater. It sure would be fun trying. A thrill of fear went through me. Do we even know where to start? Sure. Lee's Ferry, Arizona. Remember? Al mentioned that's where all the Grand Canyon trips start. We should have Al with us, Heather put in nervously. Hasn't he been down the Grand Canyon 4 times? Rita put her face in Heather's. Are you out of your mind? No permit, get it? You can't go legal. You think Al's going to help us sneak it? Forget Al. We have a lot more fun without him. Heather was trying to catch her breath. But isn't it some kind of crime? What would they do to us? Suddenly I could see myself in a cell, and just that fast I felt all queasy. I'd been in trouble before, but never in jail. Everybody was quiet and looking to Troy. He shrugged. Some kind of larceny, wouldn't it be? I mean, I can't expect we'd serve life in prison for moving Al's van a couple of 100 miles and then taking his gear downstream. It'll be obvious we didn't intend to steal any of it. Adam broke a long moment of tense silence as he shouted, Hey, wait a minute, this is perfect! Troy's last name is Larson, right? This will be a case of grand larceny. Everybody groaned, and Pug pounded Adam on the shoulder, then a few more times for good measure. Put him out of his misery, jeered Rita. Adam was mugging only a bit sheepishly. Get it, Rita? Are you sure you got it? Look, Troy said, eyeing the door of the office next to the garage. Al's gonna come out of there in a minute, and then this will have been just another bull session. He looked us over again, with blue eyes blazing, taking our measure, and when he got to Freddie, he stopped and stared at him. Freddie? Troy said finally. What do you think, Freddie? We haven't heard from you. The way he said it, and especially considering the timing, I got the idea it all hinged on Freddie somehow. It seemed improbable, but true. Freddie shrugged. For me, it would be worth it. The Grand Canyon? Sure. You bet. Good deal, Troy said. Freddie, who was in a very back seat, leaned forward. We have to make it to the river first. Cops will be looking for us up ahead after Al puts out the word, but I know some back roads through the reservation. Pug, who'd always seemed to dislike Freddie, roared his approval. Is this really happening, I thought? We aren't just talking about it. Troy slid up to the driver's seat and had Freddie trade out for Heather up front. He put his fingers on the keys and said, It's an adventure. Take us to Lee's Ferry, Freddie. Rita reached forward and grabbed Troy's shoulder. So what makes you think they won't catch us there, smart guy? Troy turned around and gave us a sly smile. In the middle of the night?